I recently made a video with 1 tips for every legend, so here's 1 common mistake for every Apex legend. If you found value in this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tips. Let's get into it. Bloodhounds usually feel like they want to be on the forefront of the fight and feel bold thanks to the thrill of their hunt, putting them at a huge danger to get hit and beamed on account of their huge hitbox. Bloodhound has the biggest head hitbox in the game and a pretty easy to track hitbox overall. As a support legend with an unforgiving player model, the Bloodhound wants to stay back and supply their team with information, scans, and holding angles. Speaking of scans, Bloodhounds don't use them enough. It has a pretty long cooldown, but using your scan to make sure that a spot is safe to rotate through or to take, or maybe scanning to avoid a third party could have saved countless of teams in the past. The bubble is an amazing tool to clutch up and rest or heal in a difficult spot. It's a great way to give your team an improvisational cover as you push a position or something you can play around to turn around a fight. It's one of Gibraltar's greatest strengths and is sitting on a long cooldown. Many Gibraltars use their bubble too early or too often, leaving them without this tool for when it really matters about half a minute later. In addition to this, I've seen Gibraltars use the bubble and then use a defensive bombardment to buy themselves a little bit of time as they rest a down teammate. This is good, but it's worth noting that the bubble has a duration of 12 seconds and the bombardment 6. So if you take more than 6 seconds or half of the duration to deploy it, you end up hitting yourself and slowing your team. Lifeline's passive is one of the strongest ways of turning a fight in the game, but despite this, it's common to see Lifelines either completely ignoring their teammates in need or bailing straight to their down teammates only to go down right next to them. The best way to use a rest drone is by making sure that your teammates won't get finished in the middle of the animation. A lifeline should always make sure that their down mates are in cover before starting the rest, and in addition to this, if possible, try to cover the angle so the enemy team don't get any ideas and push up. If done properly, the lifeline might even force a pick and completely swing the fight in their favor. Coming up right behind on the list of turbo inters, we have Pathfinder. This poor legend has taken so many nerfs he can barely walk straight, and winning 1v1s is extremely difficult due to the sheer size of this unit. Many Pathfinders either deploy ziplines straight into enemy teams and stick on these, or grapple right onto whoever they want to fight. They get beamed midair, and then at best they lose the 1v1 once they hit the ground. As a Pathfinder, you always want to find ways to approach the enemy from high ground and from flanks, and when you're deploying your ziplines, make sure they're not in the line of sight of anyone else watching. More often than not, a Wraith should be at a distance from your team, looking for informations, rotations, or even entries on other teams that might be set up. A Wraith wants to play the flank and her kit is perfect for this, but many Wraiths play too passive and forget that they not only have an escape with their tactical ability, but also their ultimate, which can be used in tandem to create an incredibly long range for poking, for gathering information or resources such as loot, care packages, and more. A good Wraith is always on the move with a loose leash on her team, but she's always ready to come back and help out if needed. Bangalore very often uses her smoke cluster in the completely wrong way, either throwing it on the ground and blinding herself and her teammates, or throwing smoke clusters out and blocking the sightlines between her teammates and their targets. It's harder to see out of a Bangalore smoke than into it, and sure, a digital thread lets you see through it, but most Bangalores never make sure that their teammates are set up with abilities to see through that smoke, and oftentimes just get them killed. Very much like with Bangalores, Caustic players commonly don't think of the ways their abilities can negatively impact their team, and oftentimes get their teammates blinded or even killed. When you have a Caustic on your team, you can sort of expect the barrels to give off gas, and as a teammate you usually play around these. But many Caustics throw down their ult in poor spots, usually cutting off their teammates out of sight, rotations. A well-placed Caustic ultimate can either force a team out of cover, or shut down an entire room in an area with a lot of pressure, or do absolutely nothing. It's a double-edged sword. Mirage has a high skill ceiling and a lot of room for bamboozles, but many Mirages use their abilities at a surface level instead of trying to outplay with it. His ultimate has several tells to which one is the real Mirage, such as kicking up dirt or the blue glow on his sleeves, but if this is somehow missed by the opponents, a Mirage who pops his ultimate very often uses it to either run away or straight for cover. If you take an extra second to sow doubt in your enemy, it will be infinitely more efficient. Octane players are some of the biggest turbo inters in the game. They get a small opening and instantly jump pad into a team of 3 just to get beamed before they even manage to hit the ground. Instead of feeding the enemy team another kill, make sure you either jump pad with cover between you and the target, or try and take high ground before shooting down on them with this added cover. Watson's defensive pylon has this quirk of slurping of grenades. Not only incoming ones, but very often her own as well. It's a little bit inconsistent and some would say buggy, especially this patch, but there are some rules to how it operates. Any projectiles entering the pylon range from outside will get destroyed. If you're standing in pylon range and you throw a grenade that will land in its line of sight and in range, this will also get destroyed. However, a projectile thrown from within pylon range that lands outside of its range will not get eaten. And finally, a throwable thrown from the inner circle of the Watson pylon will never get eaten, no matter if it's aimed inside of its range or completely outside of it. Keep in mind that a rolling grenade gets eaten no matter what. Cryptos absolutely spend too much time inside of that drone. This is probably because they don't understand its purpose and they think they're helping by buzzing around the enemies and highlighting them. And while highlighting enemies are useful, they're usually not as useful to the team as a fully armed crypto. When it's time to fight, a crypto should be with his team. A skilled crypto should preemptively have placed his drone either where the fight will take place, near the enemy team's entrenchments in order to get a quick EMP off, or somewhere behind to cover their back from a third party. With the nerf to Revenant in a 10.1 patch, this next mistake is particularly crucial. It's common to see Revenants playing very reactive and instantly dropping their ultimate as soon as they see an opening. This is good, but another few moments of forethought will save them from their shadow form, just returning them back to the lobby. Make sure that the totem is well concealed and or in a safe spot on a high ground you're already holding, so you can avoid nasty surprises on the way back. Loba players have a tendency to loot way too much, and I don't mean as a player, but just because of her kit. Loba's kit is an amazing way to make sure that you have what you need, and thanks to her kit, a Loba should know if a place is worth hitting at a quick glance. Either by her passive showing any important items, or by quickly deploying a black market and scrolling through the list. On the subject of black markets, Lobas commonly leave these behind, allowing other teams to access it as well. I am not sure how it got to this point, but Ramparts are the most passive players I've ever seen in Apex, even when compared to other defensive legend players such as Caustics or Watsons. Rampart players very often play too static, setting up in positions that might be advantageous at a first approach, but since they never move, the enemy team figures out the flanks and end up shooting them like fish in a barrel. Some Rampart players might set up a bit more defensive and find themselves in an unflankable corner, but then they either get naded out of it or held out as the zone closes. There's really no winning to sitting in the same spot for a good 15 minutes. Also, how is that fun? The Horizon Black Hole and her kit as a whole has been taking some nerfs for some time now. And while it's a lot harder to pull off, a well-placed Black Hole either win you a team fight or secure you a few kills. But it's incredibly easy to counter. If you are on the receiving end, all you have to do is shoot the Black Hole for its 200 health and you're in the clear. Horizons rarely use it anymore, and that might be because it's too difficult to pull off. If you don't want to waste your ultimate, try to get high ground and then place the ultimate in a position where it either pulls a team out of cover, catches them in open, and preferably when they're distracted. You can also throw a grenade to force them out of cover and then force them to stay on the move. Never throw a black hole straight into a full team unless you are sure that they are unable to stop and shoot at it. Fuse players have this tendency to open the fight with the mortar, which on paper doesn't have to be a mistake, but it's common to see preemptive mortars that are easily countered by just walking out of them. When properly used, a mortar can secure one or more picks, but if used too early or at the wrong time where there isn't enough pressure on the team inside of it, they can simply just run out or walk out of it. Another common mortar mistake is cutting off the path between you and the enemies, allowing them not only to back out but also reset without giving you a chance to push in. A Valkyrie's tactical is either completely wasted from a flat out miss or a poor read to an incredible throw from self-inflicted damage. Learning the timing and how the missiles leave your body towards the target is paramount to not only avoiding damage to yourself, but also making sure that the missiles actually reach their destination. The missiles appear from the center of your body and flies upwards and then towards your target, meaning that if you aim at someone under a small roof, it might end up hitting the roof instead of them. If you are standing next to a wall or anything else, you might end up hitting yourself, and we're not looking at small amounts of chip damage. Seer has an incredibly strong tactical. Despite his nerf lowering the effectiveness of his range and the flashbang, the ability to see the exact health of your enemy in addition to their position and cancelling any heal or rest they might have been doing allows for some super strong crowd control. However, with this power comes a big cooldown of 30 seconds, and many Seers very usually open up their teamfights with it, but it never really nets them any value. Proper Seer tactical usage consists of him or his teammates getting a crack or a knock, figuring out where exactly the enemy team is resetting on, and then throwing the scan at them before pushing in as their phoenixes are cancelled and their pants are down. And that's one mistake for every legend. If you'd like this video and you want to learn more, make sure to check out the end card that will show up on the screen very shortly, showing you one tip for every Apex Legend. What do you think? Were there some tips that resonated with you? Or let me know in the comments. And as usual, if you did enjoy the video, make sure to smash that like button, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button so you do not miss any new uploads. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.